Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I am your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted and privileged to welcome not just a legend from the tech industry of India, now in the US, but someone who has actually seen the tech industry grow from nothing to the powerhouse it is in the world today. Mr. Arjun Malhotra from the US. Arjun, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, Ashutosh.
Mr. Malhotra is the chairman of Magic Edtech. As I mentioned, he's a pioneer of the Indian IT industry. He was one of the co-founders of HCL, which grew from a garage operation to one of India's largest IT companies. He has been chairman of Headstrong, TechSpan, the Indian School of Business Hyderabad, the IIT Kharagpur Foundation, and many more. He's also the recipient of the Albert Einstein Technology Medal in 2001 and several more awards and recognitions. My goodness, how delighted I am to be able to speak to someone of your stature, sir. So let me start by asking you, Arjun, as the first leading Indian entrepreneur to relocate to USA, what were some of your challenges and learnings, and what did it take to convince people?
So yes, so when I first came here, first thing is, the phone system in India didn't work too well. Mm-hmm. So a lot of our business was done face to face. And technically, your skills were in reading body language and stuff when you're dealing with the potential customers. Correct. Or with clients. Mm. In the US, things were done on the phone. Mm. And that was a big learning on how to actually assess people on the phone and try and do things on the phone. Mm. The second thing is, in India, a lot of it is done verbally. We shake hands, and there are agreements, but who reads? Correct. Behind an invoice or a quote, there's a lot of fine print. Yeah. Who reads the fine print? Mm. You tend to sort out problems by talking to people and sorting them out most of the time. The court system just takes a long time and is a big headache. So you only go there if there's a major problem. Mm. In the US, you get a verbal okay, and then it takes 6 weeks for the lawyers to come to an agreement with how the contract has to be worded. Correct. That was another learning experience. We didn't have too much trouble or problems with getting business because we were experts on Unix when we came here. Yeah. Unix was just making the transition here from being a scientific operating system to a commercial operating system. We had already done a lot of work on Unix, had a spooler, had a file system, done lots of stuff on it. And so a lot of people wanted that expertise. Plus, we had worked on a multiprocessor machine in India. We were selling it there. Multiprocessors here were very expensive. Right. And everyone wanted their software, like the databases, the enabling software. They wanted those extensions on their software. So we actually had a very, very good position. In fact, I remember the recession in 91 or so. Basically, we grew through the recession. And that was one of the decisions I look back and, it was the wrong decision. I don't know if I could have taken a different decision at that time. Correct. But that's Amazing. What happened with us. Yeah.
Amazing. And HCL started as a hardware company, and it then transitioned to a very powerful software company. What is the story behind the hardware to the software transition?
Well, it's a long story. Let me try and give it to you briefly. Okay. So when we came to the US, we came here to sell our hardware. We had a multiprocessor machine that ran Unix. To the user, it was like single user Unix, but internally the machine had multiple CPUs. You could buy them from MIPS and Pyramid. They cost $1 million. Ours was at about $100,000. So we thought there was a market. We had McKinsey do a study for us. Obviously, when you come to the US, you have to get a UL certification. You have to, get the enabling technologies, the compilers, the databases to run on your machine. And so the deal we had, normally you pay for a port that you want to do on your hardware. The deal we had with a lot of these manufacturers, these vendors, was that I will do the multiprocessor extensions on your software. That is your IP, and I'll port it on my machine. The engineers are at my cost, but I won't pay for the porting. And so that's how we were doing it.
Okay.
We, at some stage, we decided to get out of hardware because we had a big order. It was our system, our computer was based on the Motorola 68000. The company that had given us the order got acquired, and the acquirer wanted only Intel chips, not Motorola chips.
Yeah.
And so, the order we had became a piece of paper. I was naive. I didn't know that I could go legal and probably get a lot of money. Not that I would have done it, but we decided to get out of hardware, and sort of the plan was to close the US operation and go back to India.
Okay.
So I told all these vendors where we were doing this work that I would withdraw my engineers. All of them agreed to pay for it. They said they needed those extensions. They'd pay us per hour for our engineers who were working there. And it was a very profitable business. And so, I suddenly had a cash flow, a positive cash flow. I suddenly had a business. And, we basically grew that. The other thing that happened was because we were doing manufacturing, we had taken a 33,000 square foot office with a sign on the road saying HCL America. And a lot of young engineers would drop into the office and say, is this the same HCL from India? A lot of young Indian engineers. And so we got to know them, and they were working in different companies. And so, through them, we got into those companies. We made them our customers, those particular companies. And the average sort of half-life of a engineer technology person was 9 months in Silicon Valley in those days. And so we'd follow people who'd done business with us. And when they'd go to a new company, he would champion us in there. And that's how we grew. That's how HCL grew.
Amazing. So my next question is for, a lot of entrepreneurs who are wanting to, talk global out of India also. My question to you is, you went into America at a time when India was very, very early in the stage of the globalization game. I'd love to get your perspective on what goes into building a global company with its roots in India.
Yeah, so I moved here basically because at HCL, we felt that unless we have some marketing knowledge closer to our markets, how do we make a product for that market?
Correct.
I can't do it sitting in India and trying to intellectually decide what a customer in Germany or UK or the US wants. And so, it was a difficult decision at that time, both for the company and personally, and from a family point of view. So I left my son in India because I thought we were going to go back there after a few years. We just felt we had to be close to understand the marketing, the marketing inputs that from the market, if we had to make a product. And remember, we came here to make hardware products for the US market. And so that is how basically we decided we wanted to look at it. What did happen was that before we, before we could start making money, we had lost $3 million in trying to do our hardware. And so I obviously had a buffer not to pay tax for a while till I recovered that money. So when we had the recession in 91, India ran into a cash flow problem.
Correct.
Because, first thing people stopped buying is office equipment and computers. I had money here because I didn't have to pay tax. So I actually bought a facility in India to set up my back office for services from HCL for $1.5 million, because that's how we were able to remit money from here to India. Otherwise, there's no other way to do it. So that's basically
amazing.
Sort of a little bit of history.
Fantastic. So my next question to you is that, Indian software for a large part of its life has predominantly been what you would refer to in the old days as body shopping. Now people are beginning to talk about products coming out of India. What is holding us back to become more productized?
So, I've always maintained that unless you have a large domestic market,
Correct.
you can't make products. So I've always maintained that where we will probably be the best in the world quickly is healthcare.
Right.
We probably have the largest domestic market in the world. One of the, if not the largest, one, definitely one of the largest.
Yeah.
Right. What happened in IT was that India didn't have a large domestic market. And so there was no motivation to make products for a market you understood. But there were segments in that market. And iFlex is a good example because I know I've worked with the banks. We've got Kapiti, we got Hogan, we got all the big software. State Bank of India spent a lot of money. None of it really worked. Whereas iFlex initially, and then subsequently lots of other people, have come up with software that was relevant to Indian conditions for Indian banks in those branches. Something that Oracle bought and is taking to emerging markets all over the world. Right. So now you are seeing, in fact, today, if you look at India, there is a lot of work going on in products, and a lot of companies are coming up that are doing products for the Indian market, which are also being sold in other markets, US being one of them. And so you're seeing that change happen right now. Of course, just remember, low-hanging fruit. What does an entrepreneur do?
Correct.
So I look at business models in the US, for example. I look at eBay, I look at Amazon, and I replicate them with customization for India. And so you've got Flipkart, right? You've got eBay equivalents coming up in India.
Correct.
And those are low-hanging fruit, and it's easy for people to do. But you are seeing products that are specific for India also coming up.
Fascinating.
And yeah.
Fascinating. So, one of the other questions that I wanted to ask you was on scaling up. You scaled up HCL by just establishing a beachhead, and then you must have been associated with dozens of other startups where you have built. My question to you is that scaling up is a very different experience than creating a new business. What do leaders need to be mindful of in relation to people and competencies when they start scaling up?
Yeah. So, so starting a new business is like having a baby.
Correct.
And, the first 2-3 years. Scaling up a company is like managing a teenager.
Correct.
So, if you ever had a teenager, you know how difficult it is.
Absolutely.
If you ever remember your teenage years, you know how difficult you were.
Yeah.
But what happens is when you're starting a company, everything is what the technology or whatever the company needs, your customers, etc., etc. As you grow, people issues take up most of your time because you then can't do everything yourself.
Correct.
You have to motivate people to do it. You can't call people into a room, tell them what to do, and when they walk out, everyone is clear. Your communication becomes diffused as it goes through a large organization. So you spend a lot of time trying to communicate your message. You're getting everyone aligned to the same objectives. So often you have people saying, I work really hard, but no one recognizes what I do. I mean, you may be working hard, but if you're not working hard towards the same objective or the same goal, obviously there's a good probability you won't get recognized.
Yeah.
So those become the problem. And that's not something a lot of people are comfortable with. So scaling sometimes requires a different kind of mindset than what you have.
Correct.
And in all fairness, my thing is I love the startup. I am not too happy. I mean, I've done it, but that's not where I want to spend my life scaling company. The other thing is it takes time.
Correct.
You can't, there are occasions like the bubble in 99, 2000, where things happen very quickly, but that's not the way life goes normally.
Absolutely.
So if you want to build a company, you want to sustain it, it's going to take 7-10 years of your life and your time to get that done. That's my view.
Well said.
Well
said. And my next question to you is that, the whole world is coming out of the pandemic now. And, there's work from home, there is the great resignation and all kinds of things. If you were to build a leadership team in today's context, what would you look for in people?
I don't think that has changed.
Mm-hmm.
I think what has changed is how you would communicate and manage people that are sitting at different locations. Now, the US has been doing that quite often. People talk of having a coast to coast life, et cetera, et cetera. India, we never did it earlier. It's starting to happen now. We are still, I think in India, we will still go through a learning phase to see how to make it efficient going forward when you make it a little more hybrid. During the pandemic, it wasn't hybrid. People weren't traveling at all. But we'll have to start, there's certain things like innovation and stuff that I don't think we have a model that allows us to do it remotely. People need to sit together, discuss, argue, whatever word you want to use, to be able to come up with what we consider out of the box solutions. It's difficult. I don't know a way to do it remotely.
Correct.
So I think you're going to see that happen. I personally, again, my experience at Headstrong, we had decided to save money at time when the market slowed down in 2009, I think it was. We were in the financial markets. We thought, let's invest in video equipment, video conferencing equipment, and let's do meetings that way. It didn't last. 1-2 quarters later, we decided that wasn't how it worked. So what we did was we decided for a week in a quarter, the senior management team, about 8-10 of us, would meet at different locations, even if they were smaller offices, spend a few days there, spend 2-3 days discussing our issues, sorting out interpersonal, whatever happens, and then, spend some time with people in that office, do a little sightseeing, whatever needed to be done. Before that happened, I found that a lot of senior people interactions were going through me. And that wasn't what I wanted to do. And that wasn't my job.
Correct.
Yet when we did this weekly meeting, after that, I didn't have to do any of that because they sorted it out amongst themselves because they were face to face.
Well said.
And so I believe in that. Maybe I'm old school. I don't know.
No, I'm completely in agreement because I also believe, that management by walking around or discussions at the coffee counter are invaluable in an office.
Absolutely.
That's exactly what I'm hearing you say. But now switching gears a little bit, and given the fact that you are, an active investor in so many different companies, I'd love to get your perspective on valuation and value creation. And I was talking to one of these unicorn founders, and someone asked him this question that, I've been building a huge, from one of the traditional Marwadi families, massive assets have been built, and you come and you build and you keep losing money. And the response he gave was, well, you need special talent to lose money and build your valuation. I'd love to get your perspective on what drives valuation. Is it profits, venture capitalists or investors, or the stock market, or what?
So, I'd say I'm old school. During the bubble at TechSpan, we were doing quite well. We'd done 67 million with 4 million of profit in our second year. We didn't go public because people were discounting us for making a profit. And I basically believe that your business model has to be right.
Has to make money.
You have to have a way to profitability. Yeah, not making losses is not important. You
Correct.
make losses at a certain time to grow, but you have to have a strategy. You have to have a way to profitability. If you don't have that, I would not be interested in, investing in the company.
Correct.
The other thing is what drives value is your business model, the market you're in, your uniqueness, your intellectual property, and the most important is your team. If I'm comfortable with your team, I think you'll create value. And, when I look at investments, I look at the team. I look at the fact that they're willing to put in hard work because there's no substitute to putting in the sweat that makes companies grow.
Yeah.
And I try to look at, are they going to change the world in some way? Are they going to make my life as I get older a little easier, a little better, right? Then, according to me, whether they make money or not is sort of it's secondary. It's nice to do it. It's always nice, but it's secondary because they're making a difference. And so, the satisfaction of being able to make a difference is very different to the satisfaction here. Yes, you've got to be comfortable financially.
Correct.
You don't have to have, I think there's a certain amount after which, what do you do with the money? You can't do anything with it.
Absolutely. Well said.
And, the old, if you are familiar with some of our old Vedas and stuff like that, they have a very nice saying that the only thing you leave behind after you're dead and gone are your children and your reputation.
Absolutely.
And so, if you live your life with that, that's the important thing.
Very well said. And so true. So my next question to you is your recent initiative that you launched in India, the Make in India initiative, where I noticed that you've gone back to hardware. You did announce a big initiative that you launched. I'd love to get your perspective on what you want to do and what are the objectives.
So, I go back to my roots, HCL, well, even DCM before that. What we built were products for our market. So let me go to HCL's first commercial product, what we call the HCL 8C. It was an 8-bit Rockwell PPS 8-bit based microprocessor-based commercial computer. It had what is called a power shutoff auto restart. So if you remember in the 70s, India had a lot of power cuts. They still have some, but we used to have a lot of them.
Absolutely.
And computers don't like power cuts because, trying to get them back and recover them requires skill, real skill. And we didn't have enough programmers in India at that time. So what we did was we built into the logic, we built with a truck battery, XI, one of those lead acid batteries. We built power shutoff auto restart. So when the power went, the battery held all the registers in the machine so that it started from exactly where it stopped.
I see.
So you didn't have to. It was unique to India. Of course, we even sold some in Pakistan because we couldn't sell from India, but we moved them through our Singapore subsidiary at that time, which we set up in 1980. But that's a different story. But basically, that's what we've done.
Okay.
And that, and we were able, in 10 years, that enabled us to become the largest computer company in India.
Yes.
At HCL. So what happened was, once this software services boom started, everyone forgot about hardware, and the hardware margins got squeezed, in all fairness. So people said, why spend money and effort on hardware? Everyone moved to software. And really, today, if you want to buy a tablet, for example, you buy it from a multinational, whether it's Samsung or Lenovo or whoever is making the tablet, right? Unfortunately, look at how the tablets come today. They're sealed, right? They're not upgradable, et cetera, et cetera. Now, that's not what India needs. And with the pandemic, about, a big number of rural kids have fallen behind on education because they don't have access to tablets and stuff. And, they couldn't do the online classes that they had. So the government is taking a massive initiative to try and give these kids tablets so they can go on, do hybrid and go online. So we talked to a number of governments, including the central government, and I'm just giving an example, and said, why don't we design a tablet for India? Now, what does it need to have? It needs to be maintainable, right? So I should be able to have people not in the village, but in a town nearby, open the thing and fix it.
Correct.
In a way, number one. Number two, it needs to be upgradable. So from a 3-year life, can I make it a 5-year life? And number three, because power failures still happen and batteries only last a certain amount of time, especially if you're doing graphics and all that stuff on the machine, can I have it like the old cell phones where I can replace the battery with a charged battery and continue using the tablet? So just think of that's what the India needs from a tablet.
Correct.
Right. Now, a Samsung or a Lenovo is unlikely to make it. Because, but why don't we get it made in India? Get an Indian brand, and then there'll be other parts of the world where it might be saleable, right? And so that's what we are planning. I just gave an example. LED. So those are things. And so we want to get, design is already done in India. I need to get it manufactured. And if I manufacture it there and I have the quantity, component manufacturers from all over the world will come in and want to be local. So my component industry in India will go up. Obviously, ideally, we'd love a fab and a display fab to come up too. But I have to show them that there's volume. I have to show them the market, and then they'll come. And so that's the whole plan. So it's not a short-term plan, it's a long-term plan. And ultimately, if you look at it, if I want security and the defense and all that, keep talking of security, I better develop my own operating system.
Well said. Well said.
And that's a longer-term plan. And, we had it in HCL. We gave it up. It's just that, hello, it can be done. We've done it before. And we have these skills. We do it for the rest of the world. Why don't we do it for ourselves?
Amazing.
So hopefully, so we are just trying to be the catalyst to get that going. I'm too old to see it through, but at least if we can start the ball rolling, hopefully there'll be enough people.
I'm sure we'll be looking at you, and you'll be achieving all these things in the next so many years. But more power to you. Thank you. So I've got time for one more question, Arjun, and this is now for the many, many young people who will listen to your words of wisdom. Based on an incredible life that you've had in the tech world and as a human being, what would you say are 3 lessons you would want our young viewers and listeners to take away from our conversation?
So, first thing is I tell everyone to be themselves. Don't change yourself. It doesn't matter whether you're successful or it doesn't work out. Be yourself, because I think your biggest asset are your friends you make. And unless you are who you are, if you change, you're going to lose those friends, or some of them at least. So first. Second is, if you're planning to start something, right, please try and recruit people who are smarter than you. Now, believe me, they exist. They are out there. They are there. Try and find them. And when you get them, please listen to them. Right. Don't just get them because they are smart. Because smart people, if you don't listen to them, you may disagree with them, but do listen to them. They'll leave you. And really, individuals don't build a company, no matter what the press says and no matter what people say. Companies are built by people, they're built by teams. And so try and develop a great team. And the third thing is, look, not everything succeeds. I mean, I can talk about a number of failures we had in HCL and elsewhere, but you've got to learn from them. And you've got to look at what mistakes you made and then go ahead and, try and make sure you don't repeat those mistakes. I think those are the few important things that I'd like to leave with people. Remember, be optimistic about possibilities, because whatever is possible can be done.
Amazing.
And try not to accept any limitations. Don't blame the external world for things. Ultimately, look at what you did wrong. The external world is what it is. You've got to remember, you can't change it. That's what it is.
Amazing.
You have to look at what you can change in yourself. I think that's
amazing. Arjun, on that note, thank you so much for speaking to me. Thank you for sharing with me your amazing journey, actually having the courage to have walked off to the US and started, your own beachhead there and built HCL and then your whole life and the other businesses in the US. Thank you for talking to me about technology and the way this is going to change in the whole world and what Indian companies are doing. You also spoke to me about the Make in India initiative, and I think we're all going to be watching out for what you will deliver again for the tech world from India. And finally, thank you so much for the 3 wonderful lessons, which are: be yourself, recruit smarter than yourself, and don't be afraid to fail. Thank you again for speaking to me, and good luck.
Thank you. Not at all, Ashutosh. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to the brand called You Videocast and Podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the brand called You.